Our final panel is about the work of bridging divides across America. Yeah, come on out. Sandy will introduce the panelists. I have to highlight at least one. I love them all. But some of you may have seen a video that really went viral in every sense of that word. There was this moment, the mother of all rallies, as it was called, outside the Washington Monument. It was a Trump-supportive rally, and they were sharing their message in support of the president, and then the craziest thing many of us had ever seen in our entire lives happened. The Trump advocates invited the leader of this Black Lives Matter protest that was kind of circling and making their voice heard to come up on stage. He did what? That guy was Hawk Newsome, who went up on that stage. And Hawk, as he'll talk about, found points of commonality with those people, the most unlikely conversation partners we might think today. And Hawk will also talk about the degree to which he and Tommy, who invited him up on that stage, have been ostracized by many in their community, in their tribe, for bridging that divide. That takes courage, and everybody on this panel has that courage. Thank you for being here, Sandy.
Thank you so much, Pierce. Hi, everybody. I'm Sandy Heierbacher. I am the founding director of something called the National Coalition for Dialogue and Deliberation, and I'm honored to moderate this incredible panel of 5 people that I admire so much and am getting to know better and better as we are here for the weekend. This is David Leaverton. You've already heard from his wife, who is amazing. They have a great story. David is a former Republican politician.
Not politician.
Oh, you weren't a politician?
Staffer.
Oh, a Republican staffer.
Different echelon.
But he's now on the road with his wife and children, basically traveling the world, traveling the country, and talking to people of all kinds of different political perspectives. And we'll hear from him in a little bit. Right. This is Hawk Newsome. Hawk is the president of Black Lives Matter New York, and he's a lawyer. Yep, has a law degree. Everybody is incredibly credentialed on this stage. This is Liz Joyner, who's the executive director of Village Square. This is Joe Pinion, founder of the Conservative Color Coalition, and he's also a CNN contributor. And this is David Blankenhorn, who is president of Better Angels. And I guess I just want to start by saying that, I mean, what a diverse group we have on stage here, and what an opportunity to actually show people what it means to listen first, even if we disagree. I mean, we've got a ex-Republican staffer here. We've got a Black conservative. We've got 2 liberal-leaning bridge builders. We've got Black Lives Matter activist.
Time to fight. No.
We're going to arm wrestle.
Yeah. I would love it if you would argue a little bit here. I think I told most of you that what I'd love to see is a conversation among all of you, asking each other questions. When you hear something that is interesting to you, dig deeper into each other's story. I'd love to see that happen. But just to start us off, I'm curious what's driving each of you today that we need to know. And this will be our only round where everyone has a chance to speak. But what's personally driving you? I mean, from the heart today that we need to know in terms of building bridges across our nation. And we can start with you, David.
The rancor in our public life, the idea that the people we disagree with are bad people. That's what's driving me.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that making sure that we have an ability to understand what we don't understand, an ability to recognize that there are perspectives that are different from our own. Just a brief little story, just because I just thought of it. My mother came down with the case of the flu. So it was I think midnight. I went back to my mother's house, was on my way to 7-Eleven to get some Theraflu. And I got a call from my friend. My friend says, "Hey, where are you?" I said, "Oh, I'm on my way to 7-Eleven on McLean. Meet me at 7-Eleven. So I'm at 7-Eleven now. I'm standing outside with this Theraflu waiting for my friend to show up. My friend calls me and says, "Where are you?" I said, "I'm at the 7-Eleven on McLean." He says, "I'm right outside of 7-Eleven McLean Avenue." See, the thing was, he went to 711 McLean Avenue, the address. But I was at the 7-Eleven on McLean. Now, the difference is that I'm from Yonkers, and so I knew that if you're from Yonkers, you know the 7-Eleven on McLean. But if you're not from Yonkers, you would just go to 7-Eleven McLean. And so it's important for me to get people to understand that people can be having the same conversation, people can be hearing the same actual information, and yet end up at two wildly divergent points. And I think that that's important for us, society, to understand that how do we actually gain that deeper insight, the actual the context that allows us to decipher when we're hearing the same thing but deciphering two wildly different perspectives.
Thank you. Thank you, Jim.
So riffing off of what you just said, I think what drives me is I believe that we've forgotten all about the idea that having intensely diverse opinions is a strength and a value in American democracy, not a weakness. And I feel like almost sort of as a whole society, we've just forgotten that that exists. We feel like those other people just need to be gone, and then we'll be fine. And that is incredibly destructive to me, and I feel like it's not going to end well, and that we have to start refinding each other again to talk about the differences in our 7-Eleven stories.
Right.
Awesome. Thank you, Liz.
Well, for me, what motivates me is my devotion and my service to God. And that compels me to move from a place of love and to pursue justice. And if there's anything that is anti-God in America, it is white supremacy. White supremacy is a tsunami that hits the shores of humanity, that crushes everything in its path. Except after the tsunami, the waters don't recede. They stay, and they drown every single life force. So part of this mission that we're on to end racism calls for us to find understanding, right? And that's God's way. You love your neighbor. So that means sitting down with people who are from different viewpoints and really trying to understand where they come from, even though you don't agree, and to seek a common ground. I don't think that we'll all agree on anything, but if we could find specific points that we agree on and we can take action to fix those issues, then we're truly uniting the states.
It's good. Similar to what Hawk said, I mean, really what drives me is love. I mean, it's a love for this country, it's a love for the people of this country, and it's a hope that the best days of our country are ahead. If I did not love this country and did not love the people of this country and had no hope for this country, I think we're all wasting our time. And so that's to me the thing that allows me to wake up and drive to a new state and sleep in an RV park next to a group of my favorite 75-year-old friends.
That's awesome. Thank you, David.
Yeah.
Actually, the next question I have is for
What
you.
drives you?
Oh,
Yeah,
what drives me?
Yeah,
Oh,
great.
the moderator.
I like that.
Doesn't matter, I'm the moderator. I'm going to deflect that question.
An Uber.
An Uber, yeah.
Uber. That's right.
But I am curious, when you and I talked, you talked about some transformations that you have been going through on this journey that you're on with your family. And I would love for you to talk about that a little bit with us, and then to have people react to what some of your questions are that have come to surface when you're traveling.
Yeah, I haven't told a lot of y'all this. It's kind of like, I'll do my conversation over here. So my background's in politics, and when we set out, my focus was really on our political divisions, and really just saw that, our parties can't work together. I've spent time in D.C. and, just watched how dysfunctional it was, how, it's like America has a autoimmune disease where we're so focused on destroying each other that we can't actually destroy and overcome the problem that we're facing.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
I love that. I'm totally going to steal it.
Feel free.
I know that's really
How
great.
about that? I'm so proud that I impressed you. You're such a hero in this field. I'm like 3 months
I
into
think I heard
this.
you say it before, Liz. You've already-
I definitely said it.
Yeah,
You stole it
you've
from me. No.
definitely said it.
So, as we started our journey in the first 13 states, took us through the Deep South, and as we went to look through our political divisions, I could not get past the racial inequity that I found out there. And it was something that was so much more foundational to our nation, so much more detrimental to the health of our country than our political divisions to me. And so I feel like that to me is one of these root causes of the problems in our country right now is racism and white supremacy. And these foundations that our country has been built upon since a long, long time ago that a lot of us don't know about. You don't know what you don't know, and I was fairly ignorant walking into this, and I'm less ignorant today, but still ignorant, and it's been such a learning journey for my wife and 3 kids, wherever she went, but the 3 kids are here, so that's what matters.
She's there. She's there.
As long as the kids
too
are,
far, yeah.
as long as the kids are. What we don't realize, and when you get to these things, most people, you're talking to the choir, but we have no idea in America how little we know about these issues. I had no clue. I'll tell you how ignorant I am. I'm like, hey, the Emancipation Proclamation happened, the Civil War happened, Voting Rights Act, Civil Rights Act. Congratulations, we did it. And as I've gone out there, racism, both institutional and individual, is alive and well in this country.
Amen.
Slavery has just taken on different names through the years. And so for us, I feel like I've failed in bridging the partisan divides, but I feel like I've had great success in connecting more on the issues of race in our country. And to me, it's going to be hard not to focus on that for a good part of the rest of my life once I've seen the brokenness there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I remember one thing that you said to me was that one of your big questions is how do you actually help white America to understand that the issue of race is there, that it's important, that it needs resolved, that there's a lot of just denial of the fact that it's an issue.
Yeah, I don't
I'd love
fault.
to actually. I'd love to turn
Yeah, go ahead.
to you to talk about what your perspective is on that.
I think it comes from acknowledging the suffering, right? The Holocaust, always remember. Pearl Harbor, 9/11, always remember. Slavery, get over it. You've come so far. Think about this attitude. Think about this attitude. And being here in Charlottesville, the last time I was here, I was being pepper sprayed and hit in the head with rocks. And we were here taking a stand against this statue, this monument. These are tributes to oppression. I was staying over at the Graduate, and right across the street is blah, 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 the Conqueror, right? And he's looking proud on his horse, and there's this this Indian person in front of the horse about to be trampled. Do you realize that these statues are symbols of people's oppression, genocide? How can I put this in its simplest form? Just imagine somebody killed your whole family, heaven forbid, right? And did something great at the same time. And they put that statue in front of your house. You had to walk past that every time. We hail conquerors, but we don't look to see the people who suffered this conquest. The indigenous folks, the Indian people, they were living here peacefully. We came and took their land. And then in those ships, those same ships, we brought over slaves to work this country. Let's acknowledge the black person's role in America, right? What made America king? Cotton. Who provided all of the free labor to make this country what it is today? Black people. How often is that acknowledged? We have to listen to people, not shut them up. Listen first. Nice plug.
What happened
Boom.
when you
Right?
when you talked to conservatives about this, though? You've made some
for the-
ballsy moves talking
I've
to
met
Trump
with-
supporters.
Honestly, I think common ground is big. That's an initiative that we're launching. Finding common ground, the same thing that I said before, find points that you agree on, right? We agree that we love Christ. A large number of us loved Christ and the Bible. That comes with loving your neighbor. Yes, I'm being repetitive, but that neighbor doesn't have to be from the United States of America. That neighbor doesn't have to be white. That neighbor doesn't have to look like you. The biggest obstacle that we have to overcome is getting over our selfishness. We are selfish. You know what? Your son, I don't know if he's biracial, but your son won't have to worry about being killed by the police. Your beautiful kids won't have to worry about that. Ours will, no matter who we conceive a child with. These are our harshest realities. We have to be able to walk in someone else's shoes. We have to be able to identify, but we're more concerned with spending 10 hours a week on social media. We're more concerned with going to work or getting coffee. We're not confronting our friends and calling out these hypocrisies. You have a man in the White House who's backed by a conservative religious base. This man is a pornographer with porn stars, right? He shows lack of compassion for a large number of people. He single-handedly rejuvenated white supremacy in this country. Heather Heyer's blood is on Donald Trump's hands. And you have religious leaders, people who follow Christ, that are condoning this unrepentant man. That's why the public gets lost, because they can't tell the difference. These religious leaders, these institutions, both black and white, both the Democratic and the Republican parties, they're playing a huge con game on us. And the public is the mark, and they keep us at odds. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Joe, I'm curious if you have a response
No, I mean,
to that.
look, the problem with all this is, right, that all of that is true, and yet all of it is not that simple, right? I take a slightly more nuanced view of things, right? That to me, it's less about the individual. This is not about Donald Trump. It's less about the monuments, to me, personally, right? To me, I think we had dinner last night, and I said, I don't want black children to ever forget that a governor stood in a doorway and said, segregation now, segregation forever, I draw the line in the dust. I don't want children to ever forget that, because the day they forget that is the day that they forget how important it is for us to seize those opportunities that we now have and also continue to push for those opportunities to improve, right? So, I think, again, things have to be done on a case-by-case basis, but, I think even with racism, I think we let ourselves off the hook when we just talk about it in the purest sense of the word. I think that we have to boil it down to its finer parts. And to me, like I said, people always say the root of American, the root of America is kind of tied up in, or America's original sin is slavery. I don't think that's America's original sin. I think that, America's original sin is apathy, right? Because nobody comes out of the womb hating somebody because of the color of their skin. But we do come out of the womb with the capacity for apathy, right? And we haven't confronted that apathy as a nation, right? We haven't invested in the emotional, actual energy required to start dealing with the vestiges of our previously racially driven existence, right?
We feed the apathy,
we feed
right?
it.
Like we build new things and gizmos that we can feed our apathy and our selfishness more.
Yeah, I mean that's my perspective. And so again, if we can deal with that truth, deal with the fact that yes, we can see children, and children sometimes don't want to share, and we have to show them how to share, right? Like even me, I've gotten in arguments with my friends, of color, and said, who want to talk about white privilege and all these different things. And I say that, I think that even with Black Lives Matter, to me, the greatest difficulty that we have with understanding, wrapped in that, is that there are going to be people who are opposed to any efforts to improve the outcomes of other, no matter what. Those people are going to exist, right? But there are segments of society that can come with us on this journey if we do a better job of explaining to them what the journey is about, right? So when I talk to people, I say, look, you don't understand Black Lives Matter because you don't understand what it means to be black, right? So I tell people, I say respectfully, people say I'm African American. I say, I don't know what that is. I'm black, right? That there is no other person who is fair-skinned in America who's forced to walk around as a hybrid American, right? An Asian American.
It's even on the census form.
Yeah.
It's white, and then it's all these subsections.
All these subsets. So to me, I say, look, I'm black. And I say I'm black because of the fact that I don't have the connectivity with my roots that somebody else has. I can go to my friend's house right now. They can cook me up their great-grandmother's recipe from Sicily, right? I don't have that connectivity because the manner in which this nation was founded prohibits me from having that connectivity. Even if I go on Ancestry.com right now and click on leaves until I'm blue in the face, or go on, find Henry Skip Lewis Gates and he can help me find my roots, I will never have the connectivity to the legacy that was within me. That is irreparably severed because of the manner in which America was founded. And so all I'm left with is my blackness. And so for everybody else in America, you have your heritage. You can be of Italian descent. You can be of Sicilian descent. You can be of Irish descent. I'm black. That is not just the color of my skin. That is also who I am as a person. And I think that, to me, people of color have done a poor job of trying to delineate that message or get it into the drinking water in a way that I think more people would be willing to accept, right? And is that our responsibility? Is that fair? No. But again, we talked about it before, to me, it's what's required if our goal, if our objective is to get people different from us to understand in the same way they need us to understand.
I think they understand it. I think they understand it. They're just not compelled to action. People are happy with the status quo. It's a benefit being white in America. And when you have benefits, you don't want to relinquish them without a fight.
I think that it is beneficial being white in America. I don't think it's a benefit, right, to me. And what I mean by that is saying that, I'll give you a perfect example. You know, Tiffany Haddish, she hosted the SNL recently, right? First African-American woman hosting SNL, which to me is all
First, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, in this day and
exactly,
age.
in this day and age.
Yeah.
Mind-boggling, right? You got Whoopi Goldberg out here, all these trailblazers.
Yeah.
She's the first. Just happened this year, 2018, right? Now, I might be heretical to say, I don't think she's particularly funny, right? That's just
I
my
love
thing.
Tiffany Haddish.
So look, she's amazing. You wanted to win. You could be a diabetic, and if she owned a bakery, you'd probably get all the cupcakes she had to offer because she's an amazing human being. But I don't find it particularly funny. Having said that, I still set 2 alarms on my phone to make sure I watched it.
Yeah.
I still made sure that I set the DVR to record it because I understood intrinsically that if the ratings for it were bad, somebody else wasn't going to get the opportunity to follow her.
Right on.
That is not white privilege. That is the devaluation of blackness, right? And to me, this nation is founded on black devaluation. When you say privilege, it says that somehow that you have something I'm trying to take away from you. I take away your television privileges. I take away all these other things. All I'm saying is that y'all put me in a hole and never wanted to fill the dirt back in for us to stand on equal footing, right? Now, are there people that turn a blind eye to that on purpose? Absolutely, yes. And there are people that will gladly milk those added benefits until the day they die. They're happy to do it, right? But to me, my challenge is not them. My challenge is to get people to understand that I'm not trying to take away anything from you. I'm just trying to get you to help me fill in this hole so we can stand strong together.
And
So how does
I just want to say one thing. Brother, you would go so much further with the black community if you just posed your argument without saying that you disagree with the term white privilege, because we are saying the same thing.
But that's my point, and this goes back to the 7-Eleven thing, right? When I say it again, here's the issue, right? I say that what we talk about as white privilege or describe as white privilege absolutely exists.
Yeah.
We know it exists,
Yeah.
right? What we're talking about, to me, at least what I'm talking about, is how do we, again, in the effort of saying, bringing people together, get a message that we can actually have people discern, the people we needed, right? To me, the problem is that we describe things in a way that prevents the people we need to receive the message from hearing it,
right? And that goes with in terms of our work, bridging divides,
Right.
that goes with conservatives as well as
Exactly.
people of color or white people. And I'd love for you, Liz, to talk a little bit about that, about how you're bridging divides and bringing in conservatives.
You know, I mean, really what we do, so we build hometowns in, you know, or community inside of hometowns. So, and we just work it. I mean, it's sort of grassroots, human to human, stretching in different directions, making sure that we are reaching different people. I mean, it's somewhat consistent with what David does when he goes in with the Better Angels workshop, that he's really going in. A part of the reason is that you know, what you guys are talking about, then you add on top of it the fact we don't hang with people who don't look and think like we do anymore, and it's like it's a societal habit, because we've built such great tools to make it easy to find the people who already agree with us and look like us too. And so, you know, to me, I grew up outside of D.C. And went to a high school that was very racially and economically diverse. It was an incredible life experience. I found one for my children just like it. I think we hung out together across racial lines more 30 years before than my kids did, you know, and I don't think it was because there was more bigotry. I think it was because it's so easy to hang out with the people who are just like you. And so that's really what we do, is we try to get people in proximity to each other, because until you do that, I mean, it's not a sufficient condition, right? Just being in the same space and knowing each other and interacting with each other, it's not going to fix everything, but it is a necessary one. Until you do that, nothing else happens. And so we have to really work to engage. Tallahassee is a little bit more liberal community. We have to really work hard to engage conservatives, and to hear what we're saying through their eyes in a way that I just think that sort of the public square has been hard for them. And then we're talking past each other, and we're all sort of focused on what we're focused on. And so there's a lot of, you know, there's definitely some signal there. There's some real things, but there's also a lot of noise that we can't get through until we can see each other and talk to each other and know each other as humans.
Yeah, and David Blankenhorn, you've been working across the country too, bringing people from the left and right together to talk about political divides. What are some of your learnings, and how do you make sure that it's a balanced group, and how do people change in your workshops?
I think almost everybody agrees that this is a problem. You know, liberals and conservatives. You don't have to give them any statistics. They know it's a problem. Most people are pretty upset about it. Liberals and conservatives. We just make it a rule. We call it the Better Angels rule. We only do it if it's equal numbers. That's it. It's just
Equal
as simple
numbers
as
of
that.
conservatives
Equal
and
numbers in the
progressives.
room. That's it. So we find that it works really well, and people come out of it saying, you know, we don't agree on a lot of things, but we're less divided than we've been told, and we do see each other's humanity, and a lot of times they want to continue to work together afterwards, you know. I don't really even think it's that complicated, because if you put people in the same space where they feel they're being treated respectfully and equally, and nobody's trying to coach each other or tell each other what to say, good things happen.
Yeah, we regularly say that really by far the hardest part of our job is getting people there. And once they're there, amazing things happen between humans. The better angels of our nature take over.
Most of the stuff we do, you know, most of the activities that go under the rubric of dialogue and common ground, and they're almost all run by liberals. And so conservatives are reluctant to come to things that they feel are going to be run by people that, you know, they're not comfortable with.
Right.
So what we found is that you have to change that dynamic and have the decisions from the beginning, from the funding to the planning to everything, not just invite people to come to something you're doing, but to have it really, and then I think it, you know, I think it works pretty well.
There's also like cool data that says that actually David and I both use it as sort of guiding wisdom. They've taken the data across not just America but worldwide, and they see over and over again that liberals speak in the moral language of harm and care. It's very just specific to those two things. Conservatives speak in the language of harm and care, but they also speak in the language of authority and sanctity and liberty. And David, am I missing one?
Yeah, those are
And so what happens then is that I think that I'm liberal politically, and I think I have come to know that I am deaf to some of what conservatives are trying to say to me.
The way they speak. And
Yeah,
so on.
and so it comes off, because my moral channel is harm and care, it comes off sounding mean sometimes, when really it's looking at sort of a broader set of moral virtues.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because
What really amazes me about that is the Republicans have championed this moral sense and Christianity, right? But their practices and their policies don't show that.
We're doing such a terrible job.
So right now, it's like, it's not even, we're past the point of sugarcoating things. If we want to be the country that we can be, we have to love, but in a way that, like a mother's love. A mother's love that would allow her to go through any challenges to take care of her children. That familial love that your relative is pinned underneath a car and you could just lift it up. It's not about sugarcoating, it's about communicating from a place of strong love and inviting people in. There's more of us than it is of them.
Well, we're actually almost running out of time, and I'd love to ask you guys a final question. I represent an organization of folks like Liz and David here who bring people together across the country. Thousands of folks are doing this great work, and I'm just wondering, what's next? I mean, in terms of bridging divides across America, how do we scale it up? How do we bring attention to it? We're in the middle of the National Week of Conversation, which is fantastic, and I think that's part of the solution is working together. But what else can we do to scale up? What have you learned about scaling up? Is it possible to scale up?
I think so. I think that we have to know that the challenge is big, and I think we have to be that mother. I'm going to totally use that too. That can lift the car and just keeps, one of the things that I've seen that I think is really exciting is that, all of us sort of represent really a very wide range of people all across the country who are saying, like David said, we have got a problem, we have got to do something about it. And what a great story that is. We need to keep telling it. We need to keep being that. And it's so in keeping with the tradition and the big ideas of American democracy, that what Tocqueville described, that we're always having these conversations. We just got to keep going on. It has to happen. I could describe this work as being both mandatory and impossible, but it's mandatory.
That's so well said. And if it's okay, I'm going to end on that note because that was very powerful. Thank you, Liz. Thank you. All right. All right. Thank you, guys.
All right.
Who thinks America will be a better place for all of us following the lead of these champions?